This is the Everything Weight Loss podcast with Shari Ware, where we talk about everything, all things, anything to do with weight loss, health, and wellness. Here we are back again with the amazing Julia Williams, who is a trauma empowerment coach from the Thoughts Architect. As a qualified counsellor, coach and behaviour profiler, she helps people overcome traumas, especially from childhood, before empowering them to build self-esteem, create new beliefs and master the skills needed for long-term intimate relationships. Having been on this transformational journey herself, she knows how impactful the combination of coaching, counselling, NLP and behaviour profiling can be to learn to understand yourself and create a new empowered story and life. So first of all, welcome again to the podcast, Julia. Thank you for joining me here again.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like a regular.
You are a regular. You're definitely the person that I've done the most episodes with to date, and I'm very thankful that you are open to doing more than one episode with me, because we literally could have done it all in one episode, but the episode just would have been too long. And one thing I find is that when we have too much, especially in this crazy world where we're all so busy, I feel that in my own life, if it's too long, I just won't do it at all. If I feel like I've got to commit too much time to it, I've got other priorities which will take precedence. However, when we make something smaller, when we make it bite-sized, a smaller chunk, it makes it a lot easier for people to consume. So thank you for playing along that journey with me.
And I think that's something, the very first time I met you, I remember you saying when you wanted to learn to meditate, it was hard for you, and you began with sitting on the chair for 1 minute a day. And I think that's what we all need to do. There's often big changes, but if you chunk it down to what is the smallest bit, it's successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how we, especially when we're learning something new, when it's something that's completely foreign to us, it needs to start small and then we grow on that. And that's how we're going to be able to make the change successfully. So today's episode, just to give you a little bit of a rundown, we've done 4 episodes previous to this one with Julia. The first episode was an overview of tribal cycles and roles. So an overview of the whole concept. So if this is the first episode that you are listening to ever, or it's the first that you've listened to or watched with Julia and I, then you definitely want to go and watch that very first one as a start. And then we've actually broken down all of the roles and done an episode on each individual of the most common roles. And so there's 3 previous to this one, and this is the 4th one. So to make it super easy for you, I will put in the show notes all of the links to all of the other episodes in order, and you can go back and watch or listen to them whenever you have time. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the final role, which is the Joker. And with that, Julia, again, I'm going to give you the floor. What do we need to know about the Joker?
It's me. I wanted to have like juggling balls. So again, this is another one of those roles in the family that you start to notice. Like for me, I had a father, and again, it's not about blame, as we said in previous episodes. My father and mother were both World War II children. His father died when he was very young, so he didn't have good role models. He had a lot of anger issues, never accepted personal responsibility. I had a brother who was responsible for everything that went wrong in our family. So there was always tension. So logically, when there's always tension, I suddenly learned that when I did funny stuff, the tension dropped. And nobody likes tension. Nobody likes living in like a war zone full of conflict all the time. So it's a quick way to learn. As soon as they all start having, and that I can see that tension's escalating between them, I'm going to do this, and it breaks the tension, at least for a while.
Yeah.
maybe that's enough for someone to leave the house, like dad might go to work and then problem solved for a couple of hours, and maybe when he comes home he'll be in a good mood. So obviously all of the roles we've talked about, there are certain emotions that you're not allowed to have. So if you are the joker, the funny person, the clown, the entertainer, whatever you want to call it, you can't be angry, you can't be sad. Any of those, what we traditionally call negative emotions, cannot express them. And in adult life, this shows up that even in a coaching session, which was maybe 200 people in the room, it was online with Zoom, it was going to be recorded. I don't know how many more people will see it. We were talking about, I was sexually assaulted as a child. We were talking about that, and the coach stopped me and said, "Why are you smiling?" And it's like, because I have learned that you do not show pain. And even when you're talking about something so vulnerable, you smile and you cover it up. You put on your happy face and you get out there. So if you're one of those people that finds that even in a moment of, and you know, those people, they joke, and I'm so aware of it now because I know that I do it. Yeah. I look at other people and I see them laughing or joking or smiling or making something massive like that into like, oh, you know, it was just when I was a kid, it's nothing. Yeah. As soon as you start doing that sort of behavior, that's the entertainer. Yeah. Minimizing it, and you're put on this happy smiley face. Yeah. So this child must always appear to be happy, funny, carefree, charming. It's a good advertisement for the family because, again, my brother was such a problematic child, but the fact that they've got this golden happy child, obviously the family is all right. So I was a good advertisement for my family. Yeah. But growing up in that sort of hostile environment, inside I was always terrified, needy, confused. Like I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know who could protect me. Yeah. And that's not a nice place to be in as a kid. No. So my job was to keep the family together by always diffusing the tension. So again, if you're in that role where you are the head of the army on some sort of peace mission, you can't have a day off because you're feeling sad. You can't hold up the white flag and go, okay, everybody, we're going to stop the war for a day because I've got a bit of a cold and I'm not really feeling up to this. Like the war continues. Yeah. And I think that's where I have learned to become addicted to busyness. I do have some comfort food. We've spoken about that before, but my addiction is busyness. Because if I keep busy, I never have to tune into how I'm feeling and be aware of what's happening in my body. Yeah. So my job was to keep everybody happy. So you're kind of like the MC at the beginning of a comedy show, just like keep it all light and fluffy for everybody. So we obviously never talk about any real such as conflict, arguments, how do you resolve tension between people, because there was none in my family because I did my job so well, apparently. In your adult lives, you show up as funny. So I'm always the one in a group that cracks the funny joke, that does something lighthearted. Unfortunately, people like us can be very manipulative and immature because we're so busy distracting and being fun and lighthearted that we never have to be serious. Yeah. Some ways it's a horrible role to play because you do have needs, you do want to be loved, you do want to be able to show your pain, but the fact that you've got to keep up this facade of happiness all the time can leave you quite lonely. Yeah. I express how I'm feeling with other people because my role is to always be happy. So I can't say to you, I'm heartbroken because my husband's left me and I've lost my job. Smile. So it's a very isolating kind of role to have. Often you feel that you're left out because you're so busy looking after other people. So I am, and we can have more than one role. So I go from, I'm probably three. I do the people pleaser, I do the entertainer, and I do the superhero. Coming in to rescue everybody because I needed someone to rescue me as a kid. Yeah. And you often look for external validation. So the Facebook likes, the comments, the number of friends that you've got, the number of people that you know. I'm embarrassed to say this. I am somewhat shocked now that there are people with more Facebook contacts than me. Like, no, that's how it should be. Like, Facebook is my credentials coming into social media.
Wow. Yeah, but that's come from somewhere.
Yeah. Because it's learning to be liked. Yeah. That is the way. So like tradition, my Facebook has grown up a little bit, but it used to always be the funny, light-hearted comments.
Yeah.
Making fun of things, teasing people, always joking around.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to do, like when you're in hospital and someone's really sick and you've got to make light of that. And sometimes that gets me into trouble because if people don't know my sense of humor, they don't understand that that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah. So again, it gets you into all sorts of trouble.
So my first question is, so I know that in previous conversations you've said that it started out as dysfunctional, and then now it's something that you've decided that you actually, it is functional for you at some times. So talk to us more about that.
So I am far more aware now of when I'm talking about something serious, such as being sexually assaulted as a kid, that's not a smiling time. And obviously when it's other people, I'm appropriate with my facial expressions, my comments. Like with a client, I would never be smiling and making light of that situation. But it's being aware of how you are with yourself. And it's also learning is before you speak to check, is this appropriate?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's relearning, isn't it? Because you learned for a valid reason in your childhood. That was your coping, your way of coping, your way of keeping the family together. And now you're having to relearn, oh, okay, well, that actually is not the best way for me to be. There's a better way for me to be. And you have to relearn how that way is. So
one of the things I hadn't realized until I was just talking to you, I was just looking at my notes, so immature is one of the things. So I have had a lot of trouble in the past connecting with people, because when you're seen as the joker and the entertainer all the time, you are not the person a best friend can come to and go like, oh my God, my life's just fallen apart.
Yeah.
Because I am the person you come to for fun. Yes. When your world has fallen apart, you go to someone else. So I've in the past not had that person that I could go to, because again, I have to be fun all the time. Yeah. Nobody is coming to me saying, hey, I've got these problems, trust me, with listening to my story. So on occasions when I needed to do that, it was like, well, I don't know who to go to. And again, I think it accentuated that kind of, there must be something wrong with me because nobody else is coming to me with that. So I must be the only person in the world that's got problems. Yeah. Yeah. I laugh as I say that now because I realize there's very few people in the world that don't have problems. But again, and that's one of the things with these roles, when there's certain emotions and ways that you have to behave and things that are forbidden. So for me to talk about the bad days, the bad feelings, only by talking about them that you understand and normalize, hey, we all have these self-identity issues. We all feel that we're not worthy, we're not lovable, we don't belong. Yeah. They are the 3 universal fears, but I imagined they were unique to me.
Yeah. And I imagine a lot of people, either have or do have that same belief. So that's why these conversations are so important. Okay, so my next question is what can you do as an adult? What can you do for yourself if you identify that you are playing the role of the joker and it's not functional for you, or if you see it in another adult, what can you do?
So again, I think with all of these roles, there are times when they are functional, but now it's almost like there's a boom gate that comes down and I have to think, like, is humor appropriate at this moment? Is it okay to smile? Is it okay to make light of this? Do I know this person well enough to joke with them? Because often I do that and I don't realize there's very few people that can joke with me at a higher level that leaves me confused. But when I get that feeling, I don't like it. I don't know if you're serious or you're joking. When I'm the one doing that, I find it funny. Watch somebody squirming, because it's like, when is she going to catch on that this is a joke? But when you have someone that does that to you, it can actually be really uncomfortable. So it's really learning that my humor, it actually can be a weapon. What was the other part of the question?
So in ourselves, if we see that this is playing a part in our lives in a dysfunctional way, what can we do? And as if we see it in somebody else, in our, in our family or our friends, what can we do to help them? If there's anything, there may not be anything.
And there's always something. There's always something. So I think when you're noticing it in other people, you obviously need to choose your moment. But again, if you and I were good friends, maybe I choose a moment when we're quiet and you seem to be having a good day, because I don't want to do this while you're obviously going through a whole heap of other stuff and add something else to your day. But it might be, I'm just wondering if I could share something with you that I've noticed. So I'm getting your permission. Or another way of doing it is, I have this friend and I've noticed that because as soon as you're talking about someone else, the person is more likely to listen. Whereas when I say, I've noticed this pattern with you, you're more likely straight away to go into defense.
Yeah.
So I've got this friend and I've noticed that she does something that I used to do. Oh yeah, what's that? Well, I've noticed, like, when she's going through really hard times and she's really upset, she often smiles and makes a joke about it and sort of minimizes it in that way. That might be just enough for her to plant that seed in her head, like, oh, I do that. She may not say anything, or he may not say anything, or it might open a conversation.
And maybe not then, but later on down the track. Yeah.
Because one of the quotes I've come across recently is that when we have events happen to us that we see as adverse or badly wrapped gifts, but they're badly wrapped gifts because inside there is a seed of equal or greater empowerment. And you have to have the bad wrapping on it so that nobody else steals it from you.
That's a good way of looking at it.
I love
that.
I know, isn't it just totally good? So like COVID, a lot of us, it's been a very challenging time.
Yeah.
But for me personally, the seeds in there is I've gone back and done another round of coaching skills. I finally decided, you've always dreamt about starting a business. It's time to do that. There's been a whole heap of things. And then through that journey and those choices, while I was working part-time and doing this, I've met a whole heap of people. I've had a whole lot of conversations. I don't think I've ever grown as much as a person as I have during COVID. And again, because my addiction to busyness kind of got taken away from me.
Made you have to take time out to your force.
I live alone. There's no one to talk to.
Yeah.
So you got to reflect. You're doing all this coaching stuff, so it's bringing stuff up all the time.
I love that. Okay. So then I think my last question, unless something comes up when we're talking about it, is that if you see this playing out in a child, as a parent or somebody of influence around that child, what could you do to help them through that?
So again, maybe it's the gentle approach that, like, hey, I've noticed you just had a bit of a disagreement with your friend over there on the playground and you were crying. but you were making a joke and laughing. Like I could see tears in your eyes. And if that was me, I would have felt really hurt inside, and I would have felt this, that, and the other. So you are saying to the child, it is okay to be sad. It is okay to be hurt. It's okay to say, you hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And that comes down to self-esteem, learning to express your needs and your wants and your boundaries. Like, hey, it's not cool that you did that. You really hurt my feelings. And I'm allowed to say that to you. I don't have to put on a smiley face.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
All emotions are okay. And you don't have to have a smiley face all the time.
Yeah.
You just came over and broke my favorite toy. I have every right to be angry with you. I don't have the right to hit you, but I have the right to be angry with you. Yeah. If you did it purposely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. If it was an accident, it was an accident. So yeah.
But still, like, I'm entitled to feel angry for a few moments because it was my favorite toy, but then I have to go like, hey, it was an accident.
Yeah.
She didn't mean it. And I can say, I'm really sad that you broke my toy. I'm a little bit angry with you right now and I don't want to talk to you. But again, it's teaching kids. And I think that's where, as parents, we need to model that.
Yeah.
So that they can see, like, even mum and dad sometimes do stuff that upsets each other.
Yeah.
And they can say, hey, that made me blah, blah, blah. And no, I don't want to smile.
And it's really about communicating. It's really about verbalizing instead of internalizing everything that's going on, especially when we are dealing with children. Because once again, if we don't give them the meaning and the context, they're going to make it up because that's what they need. That's it. That's what the human brain does.
And in my family, my father, number one, whatever his moods were, whatever his feelings were, that set the emotional thermostat for the whole house, and how we all had to play or behave that day. But what that taught me was that my needs, my emotions, my boundaries were not important. Parenting comes up to go, yeah, they are.
Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else that we need to know about the role of the joker, or anything? If there's anything that we haven't said in any of the previous interviews, now's the time to say it, because this is the last one.
I think just to recap, that, like, you can't be angry with yourself. These were behaviors that you learnt when you weren't able to think critically. You may have misinterpreted situations. So just by going back and saying, is it possible that it was something else, allows you to change the story. And even though you have taken on a role, working out, like, I would never want to lose the joker, because the joker is an amazing role to play, because it can be used when people are down to just give them a little smile. Middle of COVID, a lot of people don't have something to smile. So if you can make them smile and make their day a little bit lighter, say something funny to the old person at the supermarket, you might be the only person they speak to. Every role can be wonderful, perhaps not the problem child. But it's learning, just as we learn when to play the mother role, when to play the employee role, the businesswoman role, which role am I playing now and for what purpose?
Yeah. And is it serving me, or is it not?
Serving the other person as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
About slowing down.
Yeah.
I think that's it. We live life on autopilot and we respond automatically, but if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. I don't like what I was getting, so I've chosen. In the last few weeks, I have written down every single limiting belief, and some of those come into these roles. Worked out, is it possible that they are all wrong, misinformed? It is possible. I created a whole heap of new beliefs, and if I had these, and it's 2 A4 pages of new beliefs versus the 2 pages of disempowering ones, and then I've created a story. And the new story is like, oh my God,
And it would be a whole new world, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Because if I don't have all those limiting beliefs and I'm not stuck in the tribal cycle and I'm not limited to those roles, I can now choose to be a star in my own movie and not an extra in somebody else's.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. I love that. That is an awesome way to finish the
Yes,
whole
I was going to go mic drop.
mic drop, definitely. Okay, so once again, everybody, I'll be putting all of the links for the previous episodes in the show notes. I'll be putting the links to contact Julia, so that if you want to reach out to her about any of this, you're able to do that. You're also able to reach out to me. We would love if you have any comments, any feedback. Definitely would love to hear that, and if you got value out of this. And I want to thank you again, Julia. This has been a marathon effort with you. Thank you for being my very first marathon podcast interviewee.
You mean there will be others?
Oh, you just never know what's going to come up in the scheme of things. But
thank you. It's been really enjoyable, and it's nice to play with someone and explore the ideas further and bounce them back and forward, because I think every time you do that, and that's where it comes back to the communication in your family. By communicating and bouncing back and clarifying things, it deepens your understanding. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, and I'll see you all on the next episode. See ya.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Remember to check out the show notes, and if you have any comments, feedback or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. If you've received value from this podcast, make sure to subscribe, and I'd love you to rate and review the show. Have a fabulous day.